I think for many of us that grew up in the homes of our grandparents or great-grandparents, or not only grew up in their homes, but were entertained by them and they spoke to us about the shtetl, showed us photographs that were black and white. And I think for me, one of the major transitions when I started traveling in the Baltics was to see that there was color. Because I always thought that the Baltics were gray, you know, black, white and gray, that the rivers were gray and the fields and everything else. So, I mean, just to appreciate that we actually are surrounded by color, for me is why I think some of these, there are many reasons why the heritage tours are important, but I'm saying that it's more fundamental than just the superficial understanding. I'm saying that by seeing color, that's what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to impregnate everybody's understanding of who we came from with that color, that it should bring to life the people that were there.
You see, every house has its own size, its own height. Every house has a chimney. Very picturesque, right?
Beautiful.
Look, if you want to look at the typical late 19th century houses over here, this over here would be a typical Jewish home. Oh. This one over here, and you're going to see this in Lithuania the same. Yeah. This is a wooden house with a wooden frames, and that's the typical kind of roofing that you've
And what does it say on top there? Next to the star. No, I didn't take it. Baruch.
This building is a Jewish school today, but this was also designed and it was also opened as the first Jewish state school in the whole Russian Empire. This is already the Jewish quarter, right? This is historical Jewish quarter, and to put them into the shul. All this, they locked the doors, nailed the windows, and put on fire.
How many were inside?
About 500 for sure. 500, 600. The great synagogue was destroyed.
Eine Jansson.
Yes, eine Jansson.
This is your mutter.
No, my sister of my mother.
Your auntie.
Auntie.
Yeah. She
It's
died.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Aggressive duck, yes, aggressive duck.
I'm very happy because you asked them.
Thank you.
Yeah. And she was very also happy.
How many Jews did she save?
Two persons.
2 persons, which is the whole world.
Yeah.
But just to actually try for a minute, as we're walking through here, perhaps not to speak, just in deference and out of respect for the people that lie here, and to imagine that there are 25,000 people whose lives ended in these pits. And it happened very quickly. They were taken from the ghetto onto the transports, trucks and whatever else they could use and brought here, and their lives ended right here. So maybe as we walk through the surrealistic forest where we can hear birds chirping and the leaves are green, just to begin to imagine for a minute the trauma, the anxiety, with which these people met their ends over here.
Gedaan, wie is gedaan, smeren. Jammer die braaf, je moet we hebben niet maar goed heen. We gaan je gewoon, we gaan je de competitie zijn, maar ik ben laag, is gemaakt, is gedaan, is de leven, is al ik ga niet goed, ik ga daar, ik ga daar, Dan ben we allemaal in Mohammed. Je heet Shlomo Abba Mishma, je Chaim Tovim Aleinu. Kol Israël in Mohammed. Say Shalom Mohammed, Yaseh Berachama Shalom Aleinu. Kol Israël in Mohammed.
Now we are here to show them that we are still alive.
Exactly.
That they didn't kill us.
Exactly.
Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel Chai. Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel Chai.
Exactly.
Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel Chai. Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel Chai. 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 Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel Chai.
In Boysk, let's call it in Yiddish, Boysk, and this is a typical structure of the towns here. You see a rectangular square. This is the city hall, okay, and here was the market. And who is around the market? Jews, because Jews, what Jews do? Trade, crafts, and so on. So all these houses here, that, starting with that of the red bricks there, this is was Jewish shops here. So, almost all of them were Jewish shops.
So where we're standing, we should understand, is where Rav Avraham Yitzchak Kook learned. Le'ilu nishmato, that his neshama should have an aliyah, and also that all the people that perished, perhaps even in the shul, and it's quite amazing that we are here 5 days before the yahrzeit of those people that were killed in the first Aktion. If you remember, Yulik said 28th of June and 1941, and today is the 23rd of June 2016, and I think that's amazing.
Then Rabbi Kahneman headed the yeshiva, Essen Tech, at their day. So this yeshiva was already a new form of the yeshiva, like a modern, with the dormitories, yes. Yes, yeah. With dormitories, with the classes, with the learning, with the midrash, of course, and so on. That's why you will see that this building is much bigger on that side. Okay? So, and this was the great thing what Rav Kahneman made. And
So your mishpach could have been davening in the shul.
Yeah,
I'm sure they would.
I think so.
They're learning.
thing of one Lithuanian intellectual, that this stone can say more than the whole book. This was a Jewish cemetery.
בית העלמין הישן.
הישן.
It was, still is, you know.
It is, yes. This was called the Kalteshul, and this was called the Varemeshul. Why? This is smaller, so to heat, it costs money. Okay? So this was for winter, and this was for summer. Now you see that this is a classical model of an Orthodox shul. You see the small windows, you hardly see who is standing here. That is a classical model. And another thing of the classical model is the four pillars. And Rabbi Oshri, that's him, he's young here, that rabbi that wrote a big book, Annihilation of the Lithuanian Jewry. He was prisoner of this ghetto. Okay? And he describes all these problems. Okay? So these are, my mind, Shelot without Shuvot. So here you see, this is that other gate, that other door. When they found this door, they couldn't open it with the key. They drilled here. You see, there is like a patch.
Yeah.
They drilled here the holes. Okay, and on December 25, 1943, they opened it and they got out of there to the tunnel, and there they already knew where to go. So you see, it is this one. Yeah? They were not fed, right? Of course, they couldn't be fed. For that meals they used to get. So I always say that this is one more example of the Jewish bravery. Lithuanian, Russian, and English. In the Soviet time, in English there were no inscriptions, only in Russian and Lithuanian. In Hebrew, and in Yiddish, and of course in English, and so on. And this is already only about the Jews. 30,000 Jews.
Daniela was telling us that her mother's grandmother, that makes it Daniela's great-grandmother, Chava Tybal, was brought here together with her two children, Herschel and Merka. And the three of them lie in one of the mass graves that we're standing at here today. And I think it's significant that, thank God, a survivor is here and all of us are with her. Please God, the neshamas should get an aliyah from the tefillot and also from the nachas that they get from their children and great-grandchildren, that they carry forward all the values that they stood for.
Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, knock on the door.
You see, here is more Levitical.
57.
The name of the street's changed. I haven't changed. I haven't.
Leo, can I just...
We were walking down the main street in Kovna and we looked up and there it was, the exact address, probably as it had been in all those days, back all those days in pre-war Lithuania. It was an amazing moment to actually discover the house where my father lived when he was a real youngster.
Sugihara, you know, you heard about him, yeah? Giving life-saving visas.
Yeah.
And how many he gave? 6,000, over 6,000. He couldn't write them in one day. He and his wife used to write by hand, and every day during 20 days he used to come here and here to this restaurant.
Wow.
And here to meet the Jews from Poland, meal and so on, yeah, and hand them the visa.
2 or 3 years before he was Nifter, Zichrona Tzadik Kodesh Livrocha, and a man that was saved by him in the war traced him and he went to Japan. He found him, I think it was 2 or 3 years before he died, and he said, please, Mr. Sugihara, he said, we need to thank you. I need to thank you for 40,000 people in the world today. And he said, do what is right because it is right and leave it alone. I didn't do this for reward. I don't want anything. Because the whole Mira Yeshiva was saved. It was the only yeshiva in the whole of Europe that was saved intact. The whole Mira Yeshiva was saved by this man over here, in addition to a whole lot of other Polish refugees that had come over the border into Kovna. And the late Sugihara, may his memory be a blessing, is the man that was over here. He passed away, and he's the only Japanese man on earth that was ever called one of the righteous Gentiles, Chasida Umata Olam. So that's what we're doing here today, ladies and gentlemen, just to remember Sugihara, Chuene, and Yokiko Sugihara.
Can I just add to that? I'm going to pick up that story and say that one of the very last visas, truly the last visas, was issued to my mother's cousin. And a man who's still alive today, Mr. Benny Fishoff in New York, who's a very dear friend and all of his children, came back, and he was one of the Polish ones who managed to have one of the last visas, and the other one was Lazar Hendelis.
Number, a place, and a time. And here you see 4,273. And that was that great action that I told you yesterday. Okay? In the 9th fort, okay, on October 29, 1941.
Do you remember the Jewish community that lived here?
Ar jūs atsimenate žydų bendruomenę, kuri gyveno čia? Yes, Jewish live there in a ghetto. Everywhere is everywhere is live the Jewish.
It's a ghetto.
Yes, it's a ghetto there. Yes, my wife.
Your wife's mother.
Yes, my
She was
wife.
born in
1935. And indefinitely in the Slabotka live in from 1939. definitely live there, and all the war she was there, and of course afterwards. And her father died in the wartime. My mother.
And she's lived in the ghetto in this area, Slovakia.
Yes, all the time, all the life. Yes, all the life.
So she was
Yes,
in our
yes.
house. Your mother-in-law, does she often speak about the Jewish people that were in the...
She can speak all day with you. If
She loved the Jewish people. She loved
very love. She very, how I explain for you? I don't know this word.
Sensitive.
Because her mom always worked with the Jewish people, always.
Okay. So that's the kever of the grow.
This is lovely.
One more.
This is a very nice beer.
It's a
Nice beer. This beer is a malty beer, and even the ladies enjoy it.
3, 2, 1. Evening, everybody. How's your supper been so far?
The video, excellent.
Have you enjoyed traditional Lithuanian soup and pierogins?
Yeah, we used to the meat inside. Delicious.
So who in Lithuania? In the Altai?
How was the chopped herring?
Summed up our entire history can be summed up in 9 words. They tried to kill us, we won, let's eat.
Yeah. Wonderful.
But this map are all the places I have visited since 1990, looking for the last Jewish Mohican born there or nearby. So I started that work at my first visit here when I was happily shocked to discover throughout the 1990s, whether it was Volozhin or Kletsk or Mir or Baranovich or Lita or Bostev or Tzvinsyan, there was always one or two Jews in their 90s or very old who would convey the whole dialect, culture, religious and secular training.
This is the famous building of the Rom publishing press that existed in the 18th century in Vilna. The printing press was originally opened by Mr. Rom, and then it was taken over by his widow, the Almona Devora Rom, and she ran it with her brothers, one of whom was Menachem. And they printed the Vilna Shas, which has been the standard print since then for about 200 years.
Now you see that it is surrounded by the plates. These were former matzevs. They were used as a steps in many places in Vilna. Okay, here you can even see. Here, if you look from this angle, you can see the silhouettes of the Hebrew letters. Despite that some part of my family are here, I told you that my grandmothers from my mother's family from Vilna, so my great grandfather is here.
רחמים שוכן במרומים המצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה בעבור שינו מתפללים בעד הזכרת נשמותיהם.
משפחת רייכלנד, משפחת רוזנסטיין, משפחת גיבט, משפחת ריצ'מן, משפחת פרר, משפחת רייך.
משפחת סטרט, משפחת ריפקין, משפחת ברשוביץ, משפחת פנדר. משפחת ליבאווה.
Ruvain ben Raphael. Person.
Mishpachat Taubin, Mishpachat Shir.
Mishpachat Zalk, Mishpachat Mulman, Mishpachat Lukowski, Mishpachat Klugman.
Mishpachat Grust.
Mishpachat Grust.
Mishpachat Kayas.
Kayas.
Mishpachat Salmanovitz, Mishpachat Kopolovsky.
Mishpachat Trojeski, Mishpachat Milneras.
Mishpachat Yudovich.
Mishpachat Targo.
Yaakov and Miriam Schultz.
Mishpachat Trebish, Mishpachat Kanari, Mishpachat Tabovich V'Deutsch.
Rav Binyamin Pilovsky ומשפחתו.
רב דוד קשצה ומשפחתו.
חי, עוד אבינו, חי, עם ישראל, עם ישראל, עם ישראל, חי, עם ישראל, עם ישראל, עם ישראל, חי.
We have had a most spectacular Shabbos in Vilna, including davening in the Chabad Shul, the Choral Shul, visiting the ghetto where the Vilna Gaon lived, the site of the Rom printing house, so many wonderful things in one Shabbos. And to top it all off, Shabbos ended at 11:45. We've then made Havdalah in the hotel. We're looking for the stars. We've come back to film this special, unique plaque to the South African jury. It's been a special Shabbos, and we also had Ephraim Zurov and another lady, Rutka, who's written a book about the Lithuanian contribution to the extermination of the Jews during the Holocaust and before the Holocaust. some things that were just outstanding, stories and testimonials from the people in our group of their Zaydas, their Bubbas, the villages that they managed to visit, the kvarim of their grandparents, the houses that they found, so many things. It's all come together.
How are we doing?
Hello, hello.
Isn't this just amazing?
It's amazing. Beautiful.
Very good.
And as your former microphone, I'm so happy.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, it's been amazing. Just coming to kind of learn about our history, especially being able to do it with our grandmother and our father, so it's kind of 3 generations here. And learned so much, and yeah, it's been great, a lot of fun. Yeah, it's been amazing. Come with my whole family, and I don't think I've ever done anything like this, and I'm really looking to try this again.
Don't be over generous and don't be wonderful.
It must be lovely having your grandkids and your son here.
There's no words to describe how amazing it is. It's changed my life.
We do. We feel very privileged, all of us, to be here together. As Terence said, 3 generations. I think it's quite unusual and almost unique to be here as 3 generations.
It's wonderful.
And,
it's really lovely.
You know, my mom, I think, probably never thought, having heard about Lithuania all her life, never thought that she'd be here. So an opportunity arose, and very good friend Huey over there said he was going to organise a trip. I said we're going to be in, and thank God here we are. Here we are, and it's taken us 87 years to come back to Lithuania and trace our roots. And well, we haven't, okay, but it's taken that long for us to get back here as a family, and thank God it's working out well. Tomorrow we have a very exciting day. We're actually going to Strathside, which is where my late father was born, where she married my late Zayda, and we're looking very forward to that as a culmination of our trip.
It's just really been a total dream come true. It's just amazing.
So I want to say l'chaim to everyone, how wonderful it's been to be here, especially to share it with you, the passion it is to go to Lithuania, to study the history, to share his passion with him, and to see how he's a wonderful madrid to everyone else. It's been fabulous. It's wonderful to have our daughter Tali with us to share this experience in the family, and we wish everybody a beautiful trip, and thank you so much. It's a real privilege to be here. You must come to Lithuania.
I think this trip has been magnificent. I have really enjoyed. So far it's excellent.
Where is that?
מי האיש שחפץ חיים, אוהב ימים לראות טוב, מצור לשונך מרע ושפתיך מדבר מרמה, צור מרע ועשה טוב, בקש שלום ורדפהו.
Okay, now every next time.
I'll even let you take the picture right now.
I think we should have a group photograph. So Rebbe Chanan Wasserman was the Rosh Yeshiva here at the Yeshiva in Baranovich, and he was a pupil and probably one of the primary pupils of the Chofetz Chaim.
do you call my family events? Not because of this. My missus' computer. This is just the
Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu 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 Chai.
These were the barracks where they worked and where they were useful because there were workshops around, okay? And in these barracks they lived. And of course they were aware all the time, were action and actions and so on, they were aware of what is going to happen. And they were very, very brave. They decided to dig a bunker, a tunnel and so on, and all they did was inside. You imagine? All the sand that was dug out, yeah, they put
kept it
inside, or in the attics, or in the side,
so nobody would
and so on.
suspect.
They smuggled wood, crushed. They succeeded, and they got out through this tunnel and joined Belsky unit. Yeah. That Tuvia Belsky once said, "We accept everybody, and we think that to save a Jewish old woman is more important than to kill 10 Nazi soldiers." Wow. This is a real humanism. This is a real Jewish tradition, right?
Yulik, do you know where the tunnel came out?
It got out 200 meters in this direction because this was the direction to the forest.
From our school, visit this museum, and this history is very interesting because Jewish history after war was unknown for local people, all unknown. Thing of honor demonstrates this place, this memory place. It's very important history in history of each family. Yes. Who connect with this place.
Thanks, Susan.
This is in the Mir Yeshiva, and today it's a post office.
It's a post office.
It's a post office.
Today it's a post office.
Nadine Gottlieb's grandfather, what's his name?
Sam Kopelovsky.
Sam Kopelovsky lived here in the Mir.
But this was the great Minsk shul.
Wow.
It was made in the late 50s. It became a theater of what is it? Ilana. So I'll give you now.
I want to introduce you to the chief rabbi of Minsk, Rabbi Deutsch.